Howdy buddy, C4, welcome back to the channel. Hope you're all having a great weekend. I thought like this weekend, couple weeks ahead of the Madden 24 beta, is as good a time as ever to release my Madden 24 wish list. Now this all started over my Twitter. It got some good traction. Go give me a follow there over on Twitter at PapaXC4, which made me say like, you know what, I should probably put this, pen to video and make this into a video because this is an incredibly realistic and attainable wish list. I'm not going to be coming up with some wish list that is going to have, a bunch of reinventing the wheel, bunch of dream type updates. That's already been done. I can't and will not ever be able to come up with something and concepts better than what Deuce Douglas has created. And this is, if you follow my channel, if you're subscribed to my channel, you probably already know what the Deuce Douglas mockups is. If you haven't, go check it out. It's literally the dream franchise mode for any, I wouldn't even say it has to be like a hardcore franchise, but anyone that like primarily plays franchise mode. What Deuce Douglas has come up in terms of concepts and execution is really all we would ever really could want from a franchise mode. And I'm not going to be able to just, outside of just lazily copying his wish list, I'm not going to be able to come up with anything better. It is literally the perfect mock-up of franchise mode. And the only thing that I could take from this, and some people don't know this, I know a lot of people do, is that Deuce Douglas now works on the Madden team. He now works on the Madden franchise team. When I used to go to community, I say used to just because I don't even know if there was a community event this year. Sometimes we get a hands-on experience and look at what's coming in the new Madden. Didn't do it this year. I don't know. Maybe they did it and I just wasn't invited because the last time I went, I had literally like 2 pages of notes on my phone about what I didn't like about, what was it, Madden 21. So maybe I was a pain in the ass when I went to that event. But either way, like this video is coming from pure guess and speculation. I have no idea what's going to be in Madden 24, but my list is going to be easily attainable features versus some of the more intricate stuff, which are just 100% in Deuce Douglas mockup. And if he can get those into the franchise mode, I believe that he will someday. So without further ado, I got 12 things that I want to see in Madden 24, and all of these things, there's a good shot that like at least half of them are like things that are patch worthy. They're not even back of the box feature updates that I want to see in franchise mode, but this should be, I think the easiest way to kind of preview this before we jump into the list is like this should be the bottom tier. This should be almost like the bare minimum expectations for Madden 24 franchise mode. 12 things I want to see. Let's freaking go. All right, so number 1, we are starting with just getting it out the way. It's kind of the elephant in the room carrying over from Madden 23 into Madden 24. As you can see here, Madden 23 players who lost save files get 50% off Madden 24. And there's reports like the file saves that were lost were into the millions, I've heard. It was bad, man. And I feel like at bare minimum, the number 1 thing Madden 24 can't have is the save stability issues that Madden 23 had, where the fact that it felt like almost any given weekend, after any given title update, that your franchise mode was not going to load anymore. Every single time in your franchise mode, you sim to the draft, there was a chance that your save was going to brick, it was going to be unsavable from that point, and it was all gone. And for someone like myself, that was just straight up unacceptable across the board, be it just you're just a regular guy who likes to pick up the game, but as a content creator in particular, absurd. Like literally you could be months, 4 or 5 months into content that have your community invested in, and it's a big part of your job as a content creator, just not work. Oh, it's gone. Sorry, fellas. Can't recreate it. It was brutal. It was absolutely brutal. You're living in anxiety every single month that there was a title update that your franchise was either not going to load up or there's going to be some new game-breaking issue. And it was all apparently on Madden's end. It was something on the Madden server side. So that should be something that once they corrected it, and it seems to be better to kind of, close out Madden 23. Doesn't seem like there's nearly as much issues, especially the issues that were very much prevalent before the patch, like the glitch that happened at the draft. You have to just have that working day one. If Madden 24 launches and we're here looking in September and into October where it's still people losing franchises left, right, and center, that just simply cannot happen. I think the fact that they're going to be eating some of this on the chin by giving a discount to Madden 24, like they know how badly they botched this. So I'm not overly worried that Madden 24 is going to have the save issue, but we got to start this video off by saying bare minimum, it cannot exist. Now, this video is not going to be per se in order of things that I want. It's just a general list. So for how I'm going to showcase this in the video, we're just going to kind of go in order of how things appear in your franchise mode. So number 2 on my list is I should be able to start my franchise mode as an offensive or defensive coordinator. As you can see right now, you can just straight up start as the head coach, but if you go into change role, it's either you kind of go into that player mode, which is not quite a career mode at all. It's just, you're basically playing franchise mode, just controlling one player, or you could be the owner, and when you go as the owner, that's where you can manage the team, and ultimately the biggest pro of doing a franchise as the owner is the relocation option. But why can't I just start as an offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator? We had that in the old NCAA games, and I think that would offer a unique perspective and journey in your franchise mode, because you could start as an OC, right? And I want to start as the OC of the Philadelphia Eagles. I could go into this menu here and I can kind of pick where I want to start my offensive coordinator. And really the whole thing of starting as an OC and or a DC is you want to flush out your skill tree. So I could be like, all right, I want to either, I want to be an eye for talent. I want to get extra boosts in how I develop players in terms of XP, or I want to be more of a team builder type coach. And that way there I can get more in terms of like scouting and stuff like that. I have an eye for talent for quarterbacks in the upcoming draft. Like that would be huge. Point number 2 and 3, I'm still continuing on the offensive and defensive coordinator. I'm going to flush out a little bit as to what an offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator starting point could look like. But point number 3 is like, if you're not going to add that in, at bare minimum, allow me to edit the offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator's names and likeness. I get that they don't have the official licensing, I assume, like whatever they have in place to use the portraits and the names and the likeness of real head coaches. They don't have that for the OCs and DCs. Fine, just kind of go through the loophole and allow me to edit them. Because obviously you can go that for every single team, or you can do that just for your main franchise and make it the real offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator. But for me, like when I get going in my franchise modes, I had like Luke Kuechly in my Panthers franchise as like a DC. Why shouldn't I be allowed to do that? Right? That is something that at bare minimum allow me to edit the info of my OCs and DCs. But back to point number 2 is that if I'm starting my franchise as an offensive coordinator, we'll just use that as an example, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You can literally still have this staff management tab and just block out Nick Sirianni, block out my defensive coordinator, and here I can only control my talent tree. The only thing I'm going to be able to do as an offensive coordinator when I'm going in here to update, I only have these trees available to me. And whenever I go on to get a head coaching job, like this should carry over at minimum. Like say if I'm the Philadelphia Eagles offensive coordinator and I spend my time flushing out this tree, and then in my first offseason I get a head coaching opportunity, like whenever I go to that new team, like I should bring and maybe be the have a way that I can be the head coach and the offensive coordinator. If someday I want to go on and hire a brand new offensive coordinator, so be it. But like that's something that happens in real life. The head coach can sometimes be the OC. The head coach can sometimes be the DC. We see it right now in Buffalo with Sean McDermott. He's the head coach and the defensive coordinator. So kind of allowing a little bit more freedom to the talent trees would absolutely make the availability of starting a career as an OC and or a DC that can go on to become a head coach. It's already in the game. You just got to loosen some of the restrictions. And all you'd have to do for the gameplay, again, it already exists. This is not something... This list, fellas, this video of easy fixes, they're layups. They are things that are already in the game. You just got to move some pieces around. If I am controlling and starting my journey just as an offensive coordinator, the only thing I can do is when we go to every single game, I have to play the offense only. I have no control over the defense. I have no control over, hell, you can even lock the substitutions in the depth chart. But all I can do is play the offense. Number 4, this is really patch tier level of want, but it needs to happen. The depth charts need to stop resetting. Here we are at week 1 of the preseason, and we got a little spicy. I want to bench Sayamalu here for Cam Jurgens. I want Miles Sanders to take a step back, and I want Kenny Gainwell to be my running back too. And you know what, on the defensive side, let's let Nakobe Dean at linebacker here get some big time reps. I really want to gamble on the Georgia product, and you know what, we'll have Jordan Davis start on the defensive line. And a lot of times I know I'm guilty of this, and I don't even say guilty. I know I am immersive enough that like I could spend 20 minutes setting my depth chart exactly how I want it, exactly how I want my specialists to line up. And it's oftentimes not necessarily the best player. Sometimes you want to play the young player over the veteran. And in Madden 23, I don't know if this is a feature or a bug. When you sim, and as soon as any player gets hurt, any player gets signed, any player gets cut, your depth chart resets. This is my depth chart now. Let's sim to the week 1 of the regular season. All right, we just simmed to week 1. Let's take a look at our roster. Did all of the work that I put into resetting my depth chart and getting it exactly where I want it stay? Oh, it did not. It completely reset. It's like anytime the computer, even your own self, your own doing, has any chance to change your roster by gaining or subtracting a player, be it free agency, be it release, be it injuries. Those are the worst. When you just have a random injury at left guard. Landon Dickerson can miss a game, right? And then my entire depth chart just resets. And it's not necessarily like it resets. It's just like generate best lineup. Someone hits that. Something in the sim will automatically do that anytime that there's something that happens to your roster. It just ruins your depth chart. So I would love to see Madden 24 not reset all of my hard work in building my depth chart. Number 5 on my wish list. You are getting ready for a franchise mode. You need a quarterback. You are looking for a brand new franchise quarterback. And you're going to go, all right, I'm not going to use C4 or Bengals draft class. I'm going to auto-generate some rookies. Now, there's some issues with the generated draft class, but I think one big one that I would love to see tuned down a little bit is that there's just too many 4.2 speed wide receivers. Like, that's good every now and again, but when you can get 2 to 3 to those guys in a draft, wide receivers that have 95, 96 speed, especially a lot of them like a UDFA caliber player, it ruins how special those guys should feel when you can find them in your draft class. So I think that should be tuned down. But I think the biggest issue is quarterbacks. And we just did this one in this little example franchise that I'm kind of going through, and it actually rolled out perfectly. The schools that get utilized when you generate a draft class are like a ridiculous pool of schools. We got Liberty, Washington State, East Carolina, UAB, UCF, and we actually got a double TCU roll. I've been told by certain people that may know what's going on that the reason why when you generate a draft class, any school can be used, which oftentimes just makes it ridiculous schools for the top quarterbacks, is to kind of prevent the chance of this happening, where you get 2 players at quarterback from the exact same school. Like, obviously, you can get 2 TCU wide receivers, running backs, DBs, for an example, but there's rarely any draft where there's 2 quarterbacks from the same class. So the reason why we get schools like this is supposedly to lessen the fact that this can happen. But the fact that literally in my first roll of making a generated draft class, we had this happen, clearly it's not, you got to pick your poison a little bit. And I'd rather go with the poison of, yeah, you know what? If we ever sometimes have 2 players from the same school get generated, so be it. But let's get some realistic schools, because this is immersion breaking. There's never, rarely you get a top 5 or a first round quarterback from USC, from Ohio State, from Florida, from some of the big SEC schools, from Texas, from any of those other teams. You rarely get them. It's always Liberty, it's always UAB, it's always like an HBCU going top 5. Like, for the love of God, just have a little quality control as it relates to the generator. I don't know what tools are available to whoever sets the generated draft class, but there is definitely some tweaks we need to see ahead of Madden 20. And they're tweaks! This is my wish list for the game. Just tweak how things get generated in your draft class. That shouldn't be overly difficult. Set some parameters. Gray out some schools for certain things. Have just the athletic attributes scale down a little bit at the wide receiver spot. All things that are tuning-based, not feature-based, that I think needs to go into Madden 24 that would hugely improve the user experience. Want number 6 also relates to scouting. It is incredibly tedious to go player to player. As it stands right now, say you're looking for quarterbacks. You have to go into McCarthy, look at his stuff. Then you got to back out. You got to go to Ken Doyle. Let's go look at his stuff. Tap. Cool. Looking good. Oh, want to look at the next quarterback? Let me just back out here real quick. Takes a little bit of time to load up there. I'm on next gen Xbox. Oh, Justin Brackens. Okay, he looks kind of solid. What's the other quarterback? Just a second. Let me back out here and go look at Bobby Tennant. Let's streamline this a little bit better. Especially when you're in the draft, when you're on the clock. I can only imagine the stress if your favorite board that you can set got blown up and you're in a multi-user league where you can't pause the clock and you're trying to find a good player. We need to see how quickly I go through this? That is how it should look when I'm actually in this menu. You should just have an option here where I can go, let's just say with the right stick. If I press down on the right stick of my controller, I can go down in prospects. So I can quickly kind of look through all the different quarterbacks, so I can quickly look for their traits. Like, say I'm looking for a quarterback that has elite throw power, and we're looking at day 3 guys, UDFA guys, where there's just so many players. You can't expect in a mode that has the clock burning you know, luckily if you're just doing offline, you can just pause, and even then it's still incredibly tedious. But if you're working against the clock, you need to make looking through players more streamlined than what it is. So my suggestion would just be have it like in this menu where I'm looking at Thomas McCarthy and versus having to back out, hit B, let the game load, and hit A, and look at Kenan Doyle, and then go over to tab again. I should just be able to hit right stick and look through the entire draft class here in this one little menu. Point number 7. You know, it's a trope to say Madden's trending in the right direction. I think something that was a nice feature that wasn't overly promoted, honestly, I had to get someone to tell me about it, is now when you go to trade a player, you can hit Y and get some offers. Now, the offers obviously are, you know, they could be a little more realistic, but I think within itself, having like this trade finder feature, it's an improvement, and it shows that like they actually went out and improved something as it relates to trading within franchise mode. But I think this next point is something that's pretty much universal, and it's almost the most requested feature that I've seen in terms of a new feature is, can we get more than 3 trade slots? You know, when sometimes you see trades, especially ones that are involving multiple draft picks, it's more than 3 slots. Like people that try to recreate real life trades in Madden, sometimes you can't because you're kind of restricted to 3. I don't know what the cap should be. How about we just open up to 5? 5 or 6? Why don't we just double it? Double the amount of available trade slots in franchise mode. Number 8 on my list is probably the most wish listy. It's new relocation content. Just come on, please. Can we, for once, for 1 year, for one update, can we get a refresh? Can we get new jerseys? You know, I don't even want to say I don't even want to say we need new locations. But can we get new jerseys? Can we get new logos? Can we get new makeup? Just to like, you know, I almost wanted to hesitate a little bit to announce who my main Madden 24 franchise is going to be, because you always want to hold out hope that I can create my own team. All right, or there's going to be a brand new or a couple new brand new relocation teams. Like, that would be fun. That's what I want to do. But it's been so copy and paste year in, year out, and I appreciate Madden for helping out, because every year I can release my Madden whatever version relocation teams video, which is like an hour long, and it gets a bunch of views because it's me just sarcastically looking through all these teams. But can relocation get some TLC? I would make an argument this is one of the most requested features multiple seasons. And remember, Madden used to have that tagline when it would come to the new game. They're highlighting the new features in franchise mode. It's like, we have gone after some of the top community requests in this year's game. And it's been multiple years that people have been screaming for relocation to get some updates, and it has not been there. So they want to stay true to we looked at and added some top community requests to our new game. Relocation this year needs some TLC. Even like at minimum, just refresh the logos, refresh the jerseys. At minimum. Number 9 on my list is, during the draft, can we have computer teams trade with one another? Like, I'm sitting here with the Philadelphia Eagles. Is what it is. My pick 6, really weird sim for that to happen. But like, there's never any movement between the CPU trades. You can trade. You can go to the trade center. You can move up and down the draft board. You can flip, you know, old veteran players for future draft picks. You can do all of that. But I think something that would be awesome to have in franchise mode is the computer teams to trade. What if, for example, I'm sitting here at pick 6. This is just a hypothetical here. Look at my draft board here. I'm the Philadelphia Eagles at pick 6. Things didn't really work out, and I want Sidney Washington at wide receiver. And all the mock drafts said he's going to slip to pick 6. But you know who else needs a wide receiver? The New York Giants. And what if I'm just sitting here, sitting on my ass, waiting for this pick, waiting for that player to fall to pick number 6, and just as we're simming, pick 1, Seattle picks, pick 2, the Dolphins pick. But at pick 3, the New York Giants have traded up with the Chicago Bears, and they end up drafting that wide receiver that I wanted. Imagine just what that adds to your franchise mode, the immersion. You know what else can happen? The A.J. Brown trade. You could just see ridiculous trades happen, even if it's a little overpowered, which is always something that when you add features like this, having the computer and finding that balance to kind of keep it realistic is always going to be an issue. But I'd rather have it in than not have it in. So adding computers to trade, AI to AI, during franchise mode, during the draft, that would be a huge addition to franchise mode. All right, let's act like we didn't re-sign Jalen Hurts here. And I need a new quarterback. I'm looking for a QB here, and we got this guy here. Bobby Tennant at a UAB. Looks pretty good. Triple A's and a B, 6'1", 220. Ran a 4. What? Ran a 4.25. This is one of the greatest generated quarterbacks I've seen And of course, it's just for a throwaway video. But I want Bobby 10 in here. I know what his dev trade is because it's going to go to my point. But this player actually was generated. Imagine if I could have used this in a freaking rebuild. But I draft Bobby Tennant, right? You need a quarterback. You are a team that needs a quarterback. You were excited. You're like, holy, what is under the hood for that dev trait? This is going to be awesome. I can't wait to play through the 300, 400, 500 reps he needs to play to unveil that dev trait. I'm excited to see what he's going to be. Until you get to week 1 of the preseason, you go to your weekly strategy. This is where you could set what players are going to get the extra XP here during the weekly training. And oh, look, it spoils my quarterback's dev trait. It says he's an X Factor. Anytime you draft an X Factor player and you go to weekly strategy, assuming like they're almost always going to be one of the automatic focus players, it spoils that they're going to be an X Factor. You know, there's a chance, obviously, anytime you get a hidden dev player, that they could be a star dev, they can be a superstar, they can be an X Factor. But when they're an X Factor, it unveils it right away. This is a bug. This is definitely something that's not working as intended, but it's been in the last couple Maddens. Let's fix this, please. Please, that's making my wish list. Can we please fix something that should have been patched like 3 Maddens ago? Number 11, fix this guy. The assistant GM, anytime he speaks, it's stupid and makes no sense. The best is when you come to the offseason. It is time to negotiate some 5th-year options. You got a 98 X Factor quarterback that won 3 MVPs, and this guy just pops up and says it's not worth re-extending. We could barely get him on the field. He suggests not to pick up the 5th-year option. Clearly that's a bug. Clearly it's not working as intended, but it's been much like the hidden dev traits that get unveiled during weekly trading. It's been the last couple of Maddens. Can we please tidy this up a little bit and get the guy that is the worst at his job in the history of video games? Can we just clean him up a little bit, tighten it up, and stop having him not recommend me re-signing and picking up the 5th-year option of my best players? And my 12th and final thing is one of my favorite videos we did last this Madden 23 season. Wish I got what are we at here? Wish I had more views than that. But we did the career of a 0 overall X Factor player. But it was ultimately I did this to highlight what I think should be at minimum the biggest change, the biggest addition to Madden 24, and it is showing how broken playbooks are. Things go in line with playbooks versus team stats, and we all know the teams that are incredibly overpowered. But like the biggest one, like, you know, when Kansas City Chiefs are an overpowered playbook, which means like when you sim your franchise mode, you're always going to see Patrick Mahomes have a chance at 45, 50 touchdowns. At least like the Chiefs are kind of believable. Like if you're going to have that final boss in a Madden franchise mode, it probably should be the Chiefs. Well, let's take a look here. I made a man known as Percy Poopkins. Gave him literally Fs and the lowest possible rating that you could possibly create in a Madden franchise mode. But I made him the quarterback of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And what happened in this video highlights just how broken playbooks are. Because we watched our 16 overall quarterback, Percy Poopkins, a machine. He went for 5,200 yards and 43 touchdowns as a 16 overall quarterback. That just shows that stats don't matter. It's all about the... And I know, I've heard, I can tell you right now, playbooks are what do these things in franchise mode. There's no mystery, there's no assumptions, there's no tinfoil hat theory. It is the playbooks. When you wonder why the Dallas Cowboys, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Kansas City Chiefs, I think now since we played a little more, I think the Atlanta Falcons are kind of one of those teams. The Vegas Raiders are kind of one of those teams. Teams that no matter what are simply ridiculous, unstoppable, and put up godlike numbers in the sim and franchise mode. It is all down to the playbook. And it just like, what does that mean? Like, what if you try to decipher that a little bit? Does that mean that ratings don't play a part in anything? Do ratings play a small part and it's mostly the playbook? Like, that should not be the case whatsoever. And if we go into Madden 24 with playbooks and the same handful of teams, the Bucks, who are definitely on the downswing, it's not the Tom Brady Bucks anymore. If we see this with Baker Mayfield or Kyle Trask or whatever, constantly coming top 5 in passing yards and passing touchdowns, like, brutal, absolutely brutal. So that is my 12 things I want to see in Madden 24. Now, how far we've come from wanting these grandiose wish lists of bringing back old features from games, maybe taking inspiration from the NCAA games and like demanding that's what we get in franchise mode. I mean, obviously, at the beginning of the video, I said anything that Deuce Douglas said, I would co-sign, and I couldn't say it any better. And luckily, he's working on the Madden team, so like it's like one of those things where, you know, at minimum, because obviously he has people he has to answer to, and he can shoot as many ideas up that we want, and those just get shot down time and time again. But like, at least we know for an absolute fact that there's someone that is working on building the Madden game year in, year out, that more so than any person in this community knows what needs to get put into franchise mode. At least he's in the building and actively trying to get these things in the game. So what I did was just make the bare minimum wish list. All of these things, really outside of probably relocation, refresh, and update, these are all almost like patch worthy type things, but these are what we need to see in franchise mode. If there's anything I missed, let me know in the comment section below. But come on, man. I mean, the big ones though, like immediately, like as soon as, like, and you know, another thing is like when you go into this, there's two things in closing. One is that most of these things you're going to be able to see right away in the beta. If they are still there, if they are still issues or not, you're going to be able to see, are the Bucks and these same handful of teams super overpowered in your sim? Is your depth chart resetting? Can I start a franchise as an OC or DC? Can I edit the name and likeness of my OC DC? Are the top generated schools? You can do that really in your first draft class. Are they from ridiculous schools that never have quarterbacks that go in the first round, let alone top 5? Or are they going to be tuned to be a little bit more realistic? And you see a lot more Power 5 schools. Are the hidden dev traits going to be broken where you're going to have your X factor unveiled right away? Do the CPUs trade? Are there going to be more trade slots? Is scouting going to be less tedious? Can I go through players really quickly by the flick of a stick versus having to manually go in and out of every single player? You're going to be able to see if all these things are put into the game right away. I also like to think that a lot of these, I'm not a technical expert. I don't know what goes behind the hood of Madden to get some of these requests in, but at least from the outside, knowing some knowledge, seems like a lot of these things they're already in the game. They just need to be retooled and represented differently, right? Like the OCDC, editing them, that's kind of like already in the game. A lot of these things are just tuning what's already in the game. And I think that some of these features that are issues, some of these things that shouldn't be happening, I was able to recreate them on the first try, trying to just make this video, right? A lot of times when you have bugs and stuff like that in games, you know, maybe it's common, but not super common. Maybe 1 in 10 franchise modes might have one of these issues. The fact that like I was able literally on my first try to go in and find and target these things shows just how easily they should be addressed, because it's not something that like when you come with a complaint about a bug or a glitch in a game, they always want you to be able to recreate it. Give me the exact steps on how you were getting this to happen. I literally just did it. Literally just went in and saw that you were spoiling my X Factor. I literally went in, and any other time you talk about your 5th year option with your assistant general manager, it's bugged and telling you not to re-sign the obvious player. I literally saw my depth chart reset immediately as soon as I went from week 1 of the preseason to week 1 of the regular season. I literally saw a 0 overall quarterback dominate the league just because he's on the Bucks, highlighting how broken the playbooks are. These are not issues that are difficult to recreate. These are not issues that are 1 in a million. These are things that happen every single time you play franchise mode. And through the beta testing, through all the internal testing that would have happened for Madden 24, you would be able to see if these issues still existed in the game. And I mean, hopefully they're big enough that they could have made the big board there at EA and been correctable. In closing, I mean, that's my wish list. I would love to hear what you guys think. Obviously, again, I didn't go with the grandiose big time hits, but I'm sure some people are just going to still suggest that anyways in the comments. And it's your right to, because we all want what's best for franchise mode. And in closing, the last kind of thing that I want to see is when, you know, we might get, I have 12 things here. We might get 5 at launch, and then we'll say the other 5, 6, 7 are going to come at a later date. You have to make franchise playable from day 1. You have to make, if I get Madden, anybody out there gets Madden, you get it on opening day, opening week, whenever, I should be able to start my main franchise then, and any other updates are going to work that existing franchise mode. Can we get a Madden release where I can start my franchise day 1, day 2, day 3, opening weekend, and know that that is going to work, and I can stay with that franchise for the life cycle of the Madden game? That has not been the case for the last couple Maddens. You have people that say, oh, you got to restart your franchise mode, or this big title update won't work in the existing franchise modes. What other game has that? What other game has this? Like, all right, you start our game week 1. Like, imagine if you're playing I don't know. What? Imagine if you're playing Call of Duty and you grind it for the first month of the game. You got a bunch of guns unlocked, a bunch of camos unlocked, and they came and said like, "Oh, we got this new patch that's gonna fix some of the bugs in the game, but you're gonna lose all your progress." Like, it just doesn't happen in other titles. I think that needs to become the standard here in Madden. Is that no matter what updates, no matter what bug fixes need to happen, it has to work and build off of an existing franchise modes. There we go. That's my little last one I'm squeaking in there. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. I'll see you guys back here tomorrow for another rebuild. Till then, it's your boy C4 saying peace out. Love ya. Have a good one.